Welcome to VERDO Studio, a quiet space where stories bloom slowly, where creativity breathes gently, and where forgotten objects are given new life beneath soft sunlight. In this collection, you'll find more than just DIY tutorials. You'll discover simple moments: a feather resting on moss, a cracked teacup turned into shelter, a pebble path telling a silent story. These are not grand designs but heartfelt ones, made from what you already have, guided by care and stillness. Each idea you're about to see is real, achievable, designed for hands like yours, no matter your space or experience. Whether you have a garden, a balcony, or just a windowsill, magic lives there, waiting to be noticed. This content was thoughtfully composed using AI tools to help craft visual prompts and warm storytelling that feels both inspiring and calm. While every effort was made to keep the tone gentle and grounded, please know this video is not voiced by a human, but by technology trained to sound as close to heart as possible. We believe beauty should be shared, softly, honestly, and freely. So if you feel something stir while watching, if a spark of curiosity lights up or a corner of your mind begins to wander, we invite you to stay a while. And if this gentle world speaks to you, please consider subscribing to VERDO Studio, not just to follow but to build this story together. One painted stone, one recycled jar, one tender step at a time. There's something quietly magical about a bowl of living things resting gently in the palm of your hands. A miniature world, shaped not with perfection but with care. That's the beauty of a mini succulent fairy garden. It whispers wonder without shouting for attention. Begin with a shallow dish, ceramic, terracotta, even a chipped serving bowl will do. Fill it loosely with well-draining soil, nothing fancy, just enough to cradle the roots. Choose succulents like echeveria, haworthia, or sedum, whose textures and soft shades feel like wild landscapes frozen in time. Now the fun begins. Add a path using polished pebbles or crushed eggshells. Tuck in a piece of bark shaped like a bridge. Use moss, collected from the shaded side of a stone, to create patches of softness. And for a bit of story, place a tiny ladder made from twigs leading up to a miniature door leaning against a succulent stem. Suddenly it becomes a house. Beginning. Place of pause. Fairy figurines are welcome but not needed. Sometimes, a painted stone or a curled leaf is enough to stir the imagination. The light touches it all, casting soft shadows that change with the day. And that is the secret. This garden isn't frozen. It grows with time, with weather, with your mood. Water sparingly, just enough to whisper life back into the soil. Place it near a windowsill, on a garden table, or even as a centerpiece for your porch. Let it surprise your guests and soothe your spirit. You don't need a sprawling yard to make magic. You just need a bowl, a few plants, and a quiet moment. In this tiny landscape, your imagination is allowed to bloom. In the soft hum of summer, something extraordinary is happening. Not from government campaigns or billboards, but from tiny hands dipped in paint and wild imagination. Across porches, schoolyards, and balconies, a new kind of garden hero is rising: the pollinator protector. Start simply. A recycled can, a brush dipped in sunshine yellow, and the laughter of a child as they paint tiny bees with wings like dreams. Add bamboo sticks or hollow twigs inside, and just like that, a pollinator hotel is born. Handmade, heartfelt, and full of purpose. Set it outside under the shade of a tree or on the edge of a garden box. Nearby, place a chalkboard or hand-painted sign that invites others in. Join the Pollinator Club. Let your children name their creation, write a story about the fairy who lives inside, or simply give their bee house a colorful roof and a heart-shaped welcome. This is more than a craft. It's a quiet lesson in compassion, in stewardship, in noticing the tiniest lives that help our food grow and our world breathe. Let your kids give these creatures a home, and watch how they learn to give the world their care. Organize a mini showcase in your neighborhood. a pollinator day, where kids exchange their handmade bug homes, plant seeds, or leave notes for the bees. No pressure, just presence. No competition, just creation. The magic lies not in how perfect it looks, but in how proud they feel. Their joy will flutter from flower to flower, just like the butterflies they protect. And in this movement, every handprint, every smear of soil, every painted wing matters. Because building for nature isn't about saving the world all at once. It's about teaching the next generation how to begin. There's a moment, just before the heat of the day fully settles in, when the light feels soft enough to belong to another world. That's when you notice it. Not loud, not large, but alive. A quiet corner in your yard that hums with possibility. This is where your fairy garden begins. Not because you believe in magic, but because you believe in meaning. A chipped teacup becomes a planter for time. A fallen branch frames a doorway you didn't see before. Suddenly, your garden is no longer just dirt and leaves. It's a story. Creating a fairy garden isn't about whimsy for children alone. It's an invitation for anyone, especially grown-ups, to return to a slower kind of joy. You don't need to buy anything new. Use broken pottery, leftover stones, moss from the shaded side of your walkway. Let wildflowers grow unruly. Let the wind carry petals where it pleases. This is gardening without rules, without rulers, without Pinterest pressure. It's about feeling the earth under your nails, placing each piece with intention, and watching as butterflies land without fear. Make it yours. Tuck it beneath a tree or in a planter box on your balcony. Add a sign. You belong here. Not just for fairies, but for neighbors who smile in passing, for children who crouch to explore, and for you when the world feels too fast. In this garden, stories bloom alongside the marigolds. Silence is welcome. So is laughter. So is mess. So start small. One stone. One seed. One quiet spot. And watch as your fairy garden doesn't just grow flowers. It grows you. In the still hush of a summer morning, when dew clings to petals and the air carries the scent of warm earth, the garden begins its quiet chorus. Bees hum between blossoms. Butterflies drift like folded prayers. This isn't coincidence. It's a carefully planted invitation, a gift we offer nature in return for wonder. Your choice of flowers is more than aesthetic. It's hospitality. Lavender rises with its soothing fragrance, a perennial favorite for both humans and pollinators. Near it, black-eyed Susans stretch upward like joyful sentinels, golden faces bright against green. These blooms aren't just pretty. They're purposeful. Plant cosmos for their lightness, their ability to sway and welcome any passerby with grace. Let salvia stand strong. Its purple spires a feast for the eye and a banquet for bees. And in the quieter corners, plant milkweed, the lifeblood of monarchs, a plant that holds both fragility and strength. Don't worry about perfection. Let the garden be a little wild. Let seeds scatter. Let color overlap. This natural chaos is exactly what pollinators crave, a living canvas that feeds them from spring to fall. Choose flowers that bloom in waves, so there's always something to return to. And tuck little surprises in between. A handmade sign that reads, Butterfly Cafe, or a flat stone painted with soft blues and yellows. Doesn't take much. Just attention. Just kindness. And perhaps a bit of patience. Because when you plant for pollinators, you aren't just growing flowers. You're growing sanctuary. A place where beauty has wings and gratitude hums softly through the petals. In this small square of earth, there are no poisons, no sprays, no sharp chemicals that silence the breath of tiny wings. Only trust, in soil, in sunlight, and in the slow wisdom of nature herself. Here, the garden pulses softly with life. Companion plants speak in silent signals. Marigolds line the edges, bright and bold, whispering to pests, "Not here." Basil stands beside tomatoes, not only to flavor your meals, but to guard the air with its scent. Lavender and mint weave a fragrant boundary, inviting butterflies and gently turning away the rest. Beneath it all, the soil sings. You feed it scraps, banana peels, coffee grounds, eggshells crushed between your fingers. Nothing is wasted. A simple compost bucket becomes a cradle for next season's bloom. There's a jar tucked beside the thyme, half filled with apple skins and citrus peels. Not a decoration, but a mindful nudge. A trap for fruit flies, made from what you had, not what you bought. Gentle, organic, and safe for the bees. This is a garden built with patience. A rebellion, not loud, but intentional. Against convenience, against control, against the myth that beauty must be sterile. You don't need perfection. You need presence. To notice, to listen, to let the dandelions grow when the bees need them most. If the fairies were real, they would thrive here. 'Cause this place is kind, honest, wild in the right ways. Let your children scatter seeds by hand. Let petals fall. Let the compost smell rich and real. When you garden without chemicals, you grow not just food or flowers. You grow a story that nourishes everything it touches. Not all beauty is bright. Some of it is quiet, found in fallen feathers, moss between stones, and a pine cone forgotten beneath the ferns. In a fairy garden, decoration is not bought. It's gathered, offered, and placed with intention. Step outside after the wind has passed. Look along the edge of the path, beneath trees, where twigs curl like punctuation marks in nature's poetry. Pick up one. Hold it in your palm. That's your first decoration. Use bark as roofing for a miniature lodge, twine to hang feathers that catch the breeze, and smooth stones to outline spirals of story on the ground. No glue guns needed. Just a bit of string, a quiet afternoon, and a spirit willing to wonder. Let lavender sprigs stand like guardians by the edges. Wrap moss around the base of a fairy hut or use it to soften the corners of a pebble trail. If you find a seashell from a past memory, place it where sunlight filters through the leaves, not to show off but to remember. You'll find that the garden begins to speak back. Birds may come closer. Bees will linger. The wind will sound gentler through the leaves. That's what happens when you let the land decorate itself. Don't overthink it. Let things fall out of symmetry. Let beauty be crooked and wild. That lopsided feather garland swaying from the tree. It might just be the most magical thing you've ever made. In the end, these aren't just natural materials. They're memories held in physical form. They speak of care, time, and stillness. They tell visitors, both winged and walking, that this is a place touched by human hands, but led by nature's heart. In a fairy garden, design doesn't follow blueprints. It follows feeling. Paths don't run straight. Beds aren't measured. Instead, everything flows like a memory. Soft around the edges, unexpected and deeply personal. Begin not with a ruler, but with your feet. Walk your garden space and pause where the sun lingers or where a vine clings gently to the fence. That's where your story wants to begin. Lay a winding trail of pebbles that twist like thoughts. Let it pass beneath a small bridge, perhaps one made from an old plank or even a forked branch you found last spring. Add fairy doors to the base of your garden beds. Paint them in faded colors. Write imperfect signs, Fairy Cafe, Butterfly Inn, or simply Welcome. Let your layout surprise you. Stack raised beds not in rows, but in playful layers. Place a water dish tucked between blooms, reflecting the sky like a hidden mirror. Don't worry if it looks uneven. Wabi-sabi is part of the spell. Use climbing plants, morning glory, nasturtium or clematis, to spill over fences and stretch across twine like wandering dreams. Give each area a personality. One corner wild and bursting. Another quiet, shaded, full of moss and shadow. You don't need a large yard. A narrow strip beside the house or a patio in a balcony can become enchanted. Use pots, boxes, bowls. Stack them. Layer them. Let them become part of the landscape instead of standing alone. Because a fairy garden doesn't grow in lines. It grows in invitations. It asks you to feel your way through. To trust whimsy. To leave space for wonder to land softly and stay. As dusk wraps the garden in shadow and hush, there comes a moment when light becomes a language. Flickering, gentle, and full of memory. This is the moment for your fairy lanterns to glow. You don't need fancy tools or store-bought lights. You need jars, the ones tucked in kitchen corners, holding old buttons or waiting for purpose. Wash them. Let them dry in sunlight. Then fill each one with a flicker. A tea light, a battery candle, or even a strand of solar fairy lights if you wish to glow all night long. Wrap twine around the mouth. Add a pressed flower against the glass. A feather, a leaf, a message written on parchment. This isn't decoration. This is invitation. Place the jars along your garden path. Space them where the trail bends or beneath your favorite tree. Let their soft glow lead the way, not to a destination but to wonder. Hang a few from branches using wire or string. Let them sway gently when the breeze passes. Their glow will move like fireflies telling stories to the moon. At night the garden changes. The flowers close. The leaves settle. But your jars will remain. Quiet beacons of light, reminding every passerby that magic isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a warm glow in the right place. Involve others. Let your children paint the jars with glass-safe colors. Let guests take one home as a keepsake. Use mismatched sizes, different textures. Imperfection is what makes it alive. And as the stars rise above you, your garden path becomes more than a walk. Becomes a memory. A glowing line drawn by your own hands, lighting the way for stories to unfold. In a quiet corner of the garden, you build with your hands. Not hurried, not perfect, but full of care. Each twig placed, each bamboo tube tucked gently into place, becomes part of something larger. A home for wings. This isn't just crafting. It's construction for life. Start simply. Find a tin can you nearly threw away. Clean it. Wrap its edges with string or soft fabric. Now fill it, bamboo tubes, drilled branches, curled bark. These become the rooms, the hallways, the welcome mat for solitary bees. Not the hive dwellers, but the gentle builders who pollinate quietly and vanish just as softly. Mount it to a fence, a pole, a tree trunk. Make sure it faces the morning sun and stays dry when the rains arrive. Add flowers nearby. Lavender, mint, cosmos. They'll find it. They always do. Now build a butterfly house. A small box with slim vertical slits, like shutters left open for dreams to pass through. Line it with bark or leaves. Let it rest near shelter. Tall plants, dense herbs, something to shade its guests. If you have children, let them help. Their fingers may fumble the twine or smear the paint, but what they build will be real. And they will remember. These homes aren't just structures. They're declarations. That this space welcomes life. That even junk has purpose. That kindness doesn't need to be complicated. And once it's built, leave it. Don't check too often. Let the bees arrive in their own time. Let the butterflies rest on their own terms. Because when you build with love, nature notices. And one morning, you'll find the buzz of wings and the silence of joy. The sound of something wild choosing to trust you. Beneath the blush of summer sunlight, there lies a shallow dish nestled among daisies and thyme. It's not flashy nor grand, but look closer. The stones glisten, hand-painted in swirls of lavender, coral, and sky blue. Sand softens the surface. A butterfly lands, not hurried, not afraid, and sips. This is a puddling station. A simple, quiet offering. Start with what you already have. A terracotta saucer, a plate with a chip, even the base of an old flower pot. Scatter pebbles inside, but not randomly. Let them become art. Paint them if you like. A gentle afternoon project with your children, your thoughts, or a cup of tea. Fill the base with coarse sand and add just enough water to moisten it. You're not making a pond, just a damp, mineral-rich resting place. Add a pinch of sea salt or composted fruit to enrich the mix. Butterflies don't just seek beauty, they seek nourishment. Place it low to the ground, near the flowers. Near joy. Let it catch sunlight but not dry out too fast. Refill as needed, not because it demands but because you choose to care. There's a magic in this that isn't loud. It's in the tiny wings that pause here, in the quiet moments that follow when they flutter away. You gave them a moment of safety, a place to rest their trembling feet. That matters. And over time, your little puddling station will grow in more than minerals. It will grow memories. Of the afternoon you painted pebbles under a tree. Of the first butterfly who said thank you without words. Because sometimes, the smallest spaces in our gardens hold the deepest magic. Sometimes beauty doesn't start with creation, but with reconsideration. That dented tin can, the forgotten crate, the cracked teacup, they're not junk. They're beginnings. In the heart of a pollinator garden, upcycled materials become sanctuaries. Look again at what you almost threw away. That yellow can, rusted and worn. Drill holes into it, tuck in bamboo pieces, and suddenly it hums with life. Hang it with twine. Let it swing gently from a low branch. Bees will find it. They always do. Take an old wooden crate. Divide it into sections. Fill each with textures. Pine cones, bark, straw, stems, drilled logs. It becomes a tiny condo complex. A buzzing testament that shelter can be found in scraps. And those mismatched teacups. Mount them on fence posts or small wooden dowels. Fill with water or sugar solution. Watch as butterflies visit, like old friends returning to a well-loved table. You don't need a trip to the hardware store. You need a walk through your garage, a moment in your kitchen, a choice to see purpose instead of disposal. There's something deeply grounding about giving forgotten objects a second life. It's not just sustainable, it's poetic. A rebellion against waste. A kindness to the earth. A whispered, "You still matter," to things that once served and were left behind. In this kind of garden, nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. Everything has a story, and now a second one. So look again at the things you thought were broken. Imagine what they might become. Then build. For the bees. For the butterflies. And maybe for yourself. In the quiet glow of late afternoon, under a tree strung with hand-painted signs and fading flower garlands, neighbors gather. There's no stage, no speeches, just a table, a basket of seed packets, and a shared desire to grow beauty together. This is a fairy garden exchange. Humble, magical, and full of heart. You bring what you have. Maybe a tiny bee hotel made from a soup can. Maybe a teacup you painted with ivy tendrils and filled with soil and a sprig of rosemary. Someone else brings painted pebbles. Another, a jar of wildflower seeds tied with twine and hope. There are no rules, just stories. Each item carries one. A child's first garden, a family's Sunday project, a plant grown from a neighbor's cutting. You leave with more than what you came with. You leave with connection. Set it up in your neighborhood. On a folding table beneath a tree or even a stoop. Invite gently, through word of mouth, a handmade flyer, or a simple note slipped into a mailbox that reads, "Let's trade joy." Place a corkboard for shared photos. Let each person pin a picture of their fairy garden corner, whether it's a sprawling backyard or a windowsill pot. Watch the collage grow, one home, one heart at a time. This isn't just about fairies. It's about remembering that community can bloom from soil and scraps. That beauty multiplies when shared. That gardens don't just grow flowers, they grow friendships. So start your own exchange. Let it be messy, let it be small, but let it begin. Because somewhere nearby, someone is waiting to be inspired by your story under the leaves. In a garden where blooms stretch toward the sky and bees hum beneath petals, there is one thing just as precious as sunlight: water. Not in fountains or grand bird baths, but in the quiet form of a dish tucked gently between the herbs, a soft place for pollinators to pause. Creating a bee and butterfly water station is an act of love wrapped in simplicity. Begin with something shallow: a terracotta saucer, a teacup without a pair, even a small bowl long forgotten in your cupboard. Place smooth stones or glass pebbles inside, not for decoration but for safety. Bees and butterflies cannot land on water. They need a solid, dry place to perch. Fill it gently, just enough to graze the stone's edges. No need for fancy additives. Clean, fresh water will do. But if you wish, a pinch of sea salt or a touch of soil can mimic the minerals they seek in wild puddles. Set it low in the garden, near blooms and shade. Refill it often, especially on warm days. Watch as butterflies hover and land, wings trembling like tiny paper hearts. Bees will come quietly. Their visit as much about trust as it is about thirst. You don't need to spend. You need to notice. That's the magic here. And as you sit nearby, sipping tea, pruning herbs, or just watching the light shift through leaves, you'll see it. That moment when a pollinator chooses your dish. That brief pause of life at peace. In offering water, you offer welcome. And in that small act, your garden becomes more than a space. It becomes a sanctuary. Not all stories are told with words. Some are walked. They unfold underfoot, across pebbles, past painted signs, beside moss-covered corners where magic lingers without needing to be explained. In a garden where imagination grows wild, you can build a story path, a journey for feet and hearts alike. Start with what lies beneath you. Gather stones, flat and smooth. Paint them softly. A butterfly wing here, a mushroom there, maybe a word like hope or pause. These become your stepping verses, laid like breadcrumbs for wonder to follow. Create signs from scrap wood or branches. Carve or paint messages. Fairy cafe, bees welcome, or let the wind lead you. Imperfection is part of the charm. A crooked letter, a paint smudge, a sign that leans just slightly. Now place your path. Let it wander through your garden, not in straight lines, but in soft curves like daydreams. Let it surprise, bending behind tall flowers, ducking under vines, circling a quiet bench. Tuck fairy doors along the way, or a teacup filled with petals, a small chair made of twigs. Every few steps becomes a new page. This is not just a trail, it's an invitation. For children to crouch and wonder. For adults to smile and slow down. For butterflies to rest and for bees to dance along the mossy edges. You'll find that this story doesn't need to end. You can add chapters. A new sign, a newly painted stone, a secret trail that appears one day and disappears the next. Because in this garden, the story isn't just told. It's felt. Beneath your feet. Inside your chest. Along every twist of the path you created. One small wonder at a time. High in the crook of an old garden tree, where sunlight dances through leaves and the breeze hums its afternoon lullaby, there lives a tiny home. Not built from plans or bought in a store, but shaped by hand with twigs, bark, and care. This is your fairy treehouse, a secret perch for stories and small lives. You begin on the ground. Gather what nature leaves behind. Bark that curls like roof tiles, twigs straight and sturdy, leaves faded into lace. A bit of string, a drop of glue, a quiet hour at the table. Let your hands forget perfection. Let imagination lead. Start with a platform, a small slab of bark or thin wood. Build upward with twigs lashed together or nestled into notches. Use acorn caps for bowls, moss for carpets, feathers for curtains. Every texture is an invitation, every imperfection a charm. Find a low, strong branch in your yard. Secure the base gently with twine with love. Let it peek through the leaves, half hidden, like something only children and butterflies are meant to find. If it leans, let it lean. That's how real treehouses are built, with balance, not symmetry. Add a rope ladder made from twine and twig steps. Tuck in a miniature table, a painted stone that says, home. Watch as the wind visits first. Then maybe a dragonfly, or a curious bird who pauses, just long enough to believe. This isn't about skill. It's about noticing, about taking what's already around you and giving it place, purpose, and presence. Because in a world built for speed, there's something sacred about building small. And when you lift your eyes to see what you've made, a treehouse no bigger than your palm, you'll feel it too. Home nestled in bark and branches. And so the garden quiets. The last light softens over mossy stones. The paint on your fingertips has dried. The wind carries a scent of mint and wood, and somewhere nearby, a bee returns home, not to a hive but to something you made. With care, with time, with heart. Here at VERDO Studio, we believe the most beautiful things are often the simplest. A twig turned into a bridge. A broken jar that holds new life. These aren't just crafts. They're reflections of how we see the world. Gently, intentionally, and with room to wonder. You don't need perfection to make something meaningful. You only need to begin. Pause. To notice. Whether you've created a full fairy path or planted a single flower in an old cup, that's enough. Because in doing so, you've invited peace to stay a little longer. If these moments spoke to you, if the stories, the textures, the light felt like home, we would be honored if you join us again. Subscribe to VERDO Studio and be part of this quiet rhythm of creativity. We share more than just projects. We share presence. Your support helps keep this gentle space alive, a place where imagination is welcome, where kindness has form, and where beauty grows slowly, like ivy across old stone. Thank you for walking this path with us today. Until next time, may your hands stay curious, your heart stay soft, and your garden, no matter how small, remain a place where magic still chooses to land.